So today we're going to talk about something that I've been told a few times that I can get a little overexcited about, and that is how to start a disability ministry by creating a strong ministry structure. We're going to look at the first 3 steps you need to create a ministry that lasts. So glad you're here today.
Hey there, I heard your church wants to become more inclusive for people with disabilities. That's terrific! Woohoo! So how are you going to get started? When it comes to church, one thing we can all agree on is it should be for everyone, including families affected by disability. But creating accessible environments takes more than just good intentions. It takes creating a ministry that can last. And that can leave leaders asking, how do we do that? Starting a disability ministry, Part 1, Ministry Structure. When starting a disability ministry initiative, the first question you want to ask is this: what's your problem? What is the problem you want to solve? If you want your church to be more accessible for people with disabilities, well, what does that actually look like? Let's say you're a leader at a church with 50,000 members, or you're a leader at a church with 50 members. You may have the same goal, but do you have the same problem to solve? A very large church may have multiple campuses and each one may frequently get new visitors. Their problem may look like this: how do we create systems to support lots of people? Well, a small church may get less visitors but have a family who wants to attend consistently and has a child who needs extra support. Their problem may look more like this: how do we support a family who is already attending? So even though the goal may be the same, the actual problems are different and will require different solutions and different amounts of resources. And this is why it's so important not to try to copy a ministry program from another church without looking at your own needs first. When we break down goals into specific solvable problems that fit our unique church, we create the foundation that everything else builds on. And that's really exciting! What? The next question you want to ask is, who do you need? When it comes to building a team, before we get to who, we need to start with what. What do you need? What roles are needed to achieve your desired outcome, and what competencies are needed for each role? Let's take a look. First, let's say your desired outcome is that you want to have buddies available for students who need extra support on Sundays. The roles that you need to achieve that would be someone to schedule the buddies, someone to train the buddies, and, well, some buddies. Now let's look at what competencies are needed for each of these roles. Well, the scheduler needs to be responsible, organized, and a self-starter. The trainer should understand disability and be good at teaching, and the buddies need to be warm, calm, and able to set boundaries. When we take time to write down the roles and competencies, it becomes easy to see, wait for it, who do you need? Now that we know what type of people should fill in each role, we can figure out who we need on our team and start inviting them in. Okay, now we know what the problem is and who we need, so it's time for the best part ever. Rules and policies! Woo-hoo! Too much? Well, anyway, how you shape your ministry through procedures, rules, and policies is one of the most important ways to create disability inclusion that lasts. So even if you're one of those people who don't find writing policies fun, what? You are still going to want to listen up, because thinking through this stuff before you need it is best for everyone. Let's start with the big 3: rules, guardrails, and boundaries. Creating a list of non-negotiable rules promotes safety, while adding in some flexible guardrails will allow your team members to stay on mission and grow at the same time. And of course, setting boundaries by learning how and when to say yes or no can protect your ministry for the long term. Starting with these 3 things will help you create consistent expectations and keep everyone on the same page. To learn more about each one, we invite you to watch Wonderful Works 5 Questions for Ministry Planning, Questions 3 and 4, Where are the guardrails, and How do you decide? But before we move on, let's look at one more thing. When it comes to creating accessible environments for people with disabilities, sometimes our policies need to be adapted too. So start by looking at the policies that your ministry or church already has established. Now ask yourself if the policies are effective for people with disabilities. Let's take a look at an example. Most churches have a restroom policy for school-aged children. It probably looks like a student going to the restroom by himself or with another person or two. This policy assumes that the student is able to express a need for help and can take care of his own personal needs. So would this policy be effective for a student who has nonverbal autism or a student who needs physical assistance in the restroom? Nope, sure wouldn't. So if you do have a student with a disability who needs to use a restroom and you don't have an adaptive policy ready, what happens then? When we don't look at our current policies through the lens of disability, we create inaccessible environments that may not be dignifying or safe for everyone. So one of the most important ways to create disability inclusion is to look at current policies through the lens of disability and make adaptations. And ask yourself if any new policies need to be added in. Well, I think we learned a lot about ministry structure today. What do you think? Woohoo! But there's one more thing before you go. If you want to go deeper into how to create a strong ministry structure, we encourage you to check out our Wonderful Work series, 5 Questions for Ministry Planning, and tune back in soon to catch part 2 of Starting a Disability Ministry, Positive Behavior Support.
We hope you're just as excited about creating a strong ministry structure as we are. But there's one more thing we want to add. When it comes to planning your ministry, don't forget to pray. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time when we talk about positive behavior support.